It's very nice to be here. Thank you so much. My name is Adele Smolansky, and I'm the CEO and founder of AI+Learners. I'm here today with Kylie Grinwald, the VP of Operations. On the screen, you can see a photo of my sister Laura. She has a severe neurological disability called Rett syndrome that affects her ability to talk, walk, and concentrate. Growing up, I watched Laura struggle to learn math. Laura inspired me to create AI+Learners, an educational website that makes learning accessible and engaging for students with disabilities through personalized computer games and analytics. Our current website offers a free website demo that over 300 users have taken a tour of and signed up for our mailing list. In 1 year, we will start selling individual subscriptions to parents, after which we will expand to selling subscriptions to schools. Laura has already begun to use AI+Learners, and her therapists have seen an increase in her mathematical abilities and learning engagement. Upon generating revenue, we will donate up to $100,000 per year to the Rett Syndrome Research Trust, as we want to help find a cure for Laura. After conducting customer discovery interviews with over 100 parents and therapists, we learned that Laura is just one of many students with a disability that has a problem learning math from current online educational websites. As these websites are designed for the general student population, they are not personalized, accessible, or engaging for students with disabilities. They are not accessible for students like Laura that use an assistive device to interact with websites. They are not personalized, and thus give students math questions that are too easy or too hard. And the engagement features are overwhelming for students that struggle to concentrate. On top of this, parents and educators voiced that they have a difficult time understanding their students' mathematical abilities and want to see more analytics about how their students learn. AI+Learners strives to solve these problems.
We've identified 12 million students with cognitive, behavioral, and physical disabilities between the ages of 3 and 17 in the United States who would all benefit from using our product. 11% of these students will not be serviceable because they lack access to technology or internet, but accounting for the varying need for our product across different disabilities, we anticipate capturing 15% of serviceable students, or about 1.6 million students. Our ecosystem consists of these students as our end users, their recommenders and educators who work with them, and parents who will make the final purchase decision. These educators work hours a day with students with disabilities to help them learn. And parents are actively looking for a new product that they can use, which is recommended by educators and that their students have lots of fun using. Currently, AI+Learners competes with a couple of other competitors, like IXL Math, SplashLearn, and AAA Math. These companies offer games and basic analytics designed for a broad base of students, but they fall short for students with disabilities. Their platforms offer additional features, like distracting engagement features and overwhelming, lengthy diagnostic exams when a student first signs up. These features are overwhelming, and because they're not designed for students with disabilities, parents pay each month for a platform that their child can only use a small fraction of. AI+Learners solves this issue, and Adele will explain to you how.
Thank you, Kylie. AI+Learners is accessible, as we follow the highest level of accessibility standards, such as ensuring high color contrast. AI+Learners is personalized, as we use a student's past performance and disability to recommend new games that adapt to a student's learning over time. And our platform is engaging. With awards, songs, and animations during games, students are excited to keep learning math. Lastly, we provide parents and educators with clear analytics to help them gain a deep understanding of their students' progress, strengths, and weaknesses. Where other edtech companies try to generalize their platform to a wide range of users, AI+Learners has a competitive advantage as we are the first website specifically designed to meet the complex needs of students with disabilities. Our competitive advantage comes from the valuable insights that we've gained from direct conversations with over 100 parents and educators. In addition to learning how to design our games for students and communicate analytics to educators, we learned that educators are seeking research-backed methods for how to personalize teaching to each student. AI+Learners will conduct this research. We will analyze user data as students sign up for our platform using machine learning techniques to get a deep understanding about how students learn. We will then share these findings with educators and apply our research to further personalize each AI Learners user account. We are also pursuing a second body of research with the Mount Sinai Health System, where we will use AI Learners to show that students with disabilities can learn when given the proper resources, such as AI Learners. We know that reputable research to back our product will make AI Learners irreplaceable in the marketplace. Our research creates a high barrier to entry for small companies, as they are not able to collect user data and gain insights from parents and educators that already trust AI Learners. Large companies will be unwilling to enter the niche market of students with disabilities, as it is not as lucrative as their other pursuits. Kylie will now talk about how we will market our product.
Thank you, Adele. AI Learners has identified and already begun to execute a marketing funnel to compel parents to purchase our product. First, we will raise awareness of AI Learners by running social media advertisements and by attending EdTech conferences. This will drive parents and educators to our platform, where they will complete a compelling website tour that will spark their interest in AI Learners. Next, we will build personal relationships with each educator and parent to convert their interest into a genuine desire for our product. And finally, parents will be compelled to purchase AI Learners after receiving a final call to action in the form of a recommendation from a trusted educator or therapist. AI Learners already has a list of 300 individuals who have signed up to receive our newsletters, and based on that, we anticipate capturing 3,000 users by the end of 2023. We will enter the market at a median price of $10 per month after conducting an analysis of our competitive landscape. And by 2026, we will add new features that increase the value of our product to thus increase our monthly subscription cost to $12 per month, while also introducing an annual subscription option at $120 per year. As we get started, our largest expenses will be advertising, an annual donation to charity, and our payroll costs. In our first few years, we will spend a little bit higher than industry average on marketing costs to ensure we overcome initial barriers to entry and capture our market share. Because Adele was inspired to found this company by her sister Laura, who struggles with Rett syndrome, we will also make an annual donation of up to $100,000 per year to the Rett Syndrome Research Trust. And finally, we recognize the importance of paying our UX designers and developers who build our product, and our customer service and sales teams who build relationships with our valuable customers. Accounting for these expenses and revenue sources, AI Learners will break even in the year 2025, and by 2026, we will see $5.7 million in profit. In 2027, we expect to see $19.8 million in profit, clearly showing the viability of our company. With an understanding of our books, Adele will explain how we will build our strong team to reach our goals.
Thank you, Kylie. We know that our team is our most valuable asset. As the CEO of AI Learners, I serve on a 3-person leadership team with Kylie, the VP of Operations, and Becky Hu, our VP of Technology. We are confident that AI Learners will make a positive impact, and we are committed to working full-time for this company upon my graduation next year. Kylie and I execute all legal, marketing, and human resources functions of the company. We also make sound financial projections and raise capital to meet our growing business needs. Becky and I design and develop our platform to ensure that our customers have a seamless user experience. Together, we manage a team of 20 student interns who help us achieve our goals. Our team is united by our company values of teamwork, continuous learning, and a drive to serve students with disabilities. Upon incorporating into a C corporation last year, all team members signed non-disclosure agreements protecting our company's confidential information and intellectual property. Our current roadmap includes implementing feedback from user testing, as well as developing new features to create a more robust and profitable platform. Our 6-month goal is to transition from our MVP to a beta version of our site where users will be able to sign up for a free trial. In 1 year, we will start selling individual subscriptions to parents, and after 5 years, we will expand to selling school licenses. To help Laura and many other students with disabilities, we need financial support. Specifically, within the next year, we need $100,000 to compensate team members, attend EdTech conferences, travel to competitions like this one, and run advertisements. We know that winning this award today will bring us one step closer to reaching this goal of $100,000 and ultimately reach our long-term goal of helping students with disabilities. We are confident that AI Learners will make a positive impact in education for students with disabilities, and we would love your support to help us help these students. Thank you very much, and now we would love to welcome your questions.
Great job, ladies and AI learners. Judges, any questions?
Thank you all. It's a great presentation. You touched on this during your comments, but learning disabilities, there's a wide range of challenges that you're trying to face, and you talked about how the game adapts over time. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So the way that our games are designed specifically to start is that we've understood that for kids with disabilities in general, they require very simple designs. We need to make sure that the instructions are very clear for them, that we have a lot of different auditory components. And this design we found that is relatively general across a wide range of students with disabilities. However, though, we're adding a settings menu within our games to ensure that students can to ensure that the parents and educators of the students can adapt the settings a little bit for each student's needs, because an educator will have that understanding. And then over time, we can then analyze how these settings are changing for each student based on their disability. So when a student signs up for the platform, we will ask a list of questions about the student's disability, and we've understood what this list of questions should be from working with a therapist. So we have a very close connection with an advisor that's worked in special education for the last 20 years, and she's really helped us verify our game designs and this data collection that we need in order to then understand the relationships between how students learn and a student's disability. So that I touched on just the design aspect, but then there's the other aspect, which is really understanding how to modify a student's math level. And that as well, we will first have our initial algorithms that just generate data to compare a student's disability with how a student is actually learning over time. And then we will analyze this data with machine learning techniques to really understand what the patterns are, what the relationships are between a student's disability and how they're learning. And then we will put that back into the algorithm and then further personalize each student's account.
So first of all, very compelling, and I love that the personal mission is very clear. You talked about using the $100,000 to go to case competitions and for marketing. Wondering if any of that would be invested into your initial platform development, and what is the total all-in investment to build that initial foundational platform?
Yes, so I can show here as well, if you can see it, sorry, exactly how our expenses will be spent in the next year or in the next 2 years. So we do need to compensate team members. However, though, because we are students right now, the way that we're compensating our current team is through academic credit. I set up something called an engineering project team at Cornell. So all students that are working for AI Learners are receiving this academic credit as we are really committed to this continuous learning and just general learning through this experience. So all students on our team are getting a great learning experience as they're working for AI Learners. However, though, some of that $100,000 would be spent for 1 or 2 professional developers that we would hire, and a few other employees as well, just to really help us gain traction and expedite development. And then the other costs, of course, are going to go to marketing, because we know how important that is at an early stage. And then over the course of this next month, for example, we are traveling to other competitions. We're also finalists at the eFest competition, so we're traveling to Minneapolis in the end of April. So that's another cost. And then we really do want to start attending EdTech conferences. We've attended 1 or 2 that have been virtual, but we know how important it is to attend them in person, because you can gain so many valuable connections to more educators and also just help us better understand the EdTech industry and help us improve our platform.
I'm inspired by your purpose, and I greatly appreciate your company values, so thank you and congrats. The question is, you've demonstrated an incredible business model where your profitability ramps pretty quickly, but there's also a bunch of competitors out there. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the 2 or 3 things that are most important to stay ahead of them when they see the profitability of your model and an efficient market theory, everybody wants a piece of it?
Right. I think that's really what I was trying to talk about when I talked about our competitive advantage. So one really strong area that we think that we can get ahead in is research. There's one other company called Assistments that works with general education students. I actually had a meeting with the CEO of the company last week, and I was asking him why they haven't yet conducted any research for students with disabilities. And this company is a huge company that has reached a lot of students and has done an incredible amount of research. However, they have published, I think, 1 or 2 articles specifically for kids with disabilities. And he said that there's just not a great enough appeal for it, so his company, which is a large company, has not yet done that. So that really rules out these large companies. They just don't have the need to do it, and they also need to make these connections with students with disabilities and their families, and creating those connections is very intensive in those personal relationships, as Kylie was talking about, through marketing. So then smaller companies such as AI Learners will be making those personal connections, and based on how I have a sister with a disability, I've already made a lot of these personal connections, which is, for example, how we got the connection with the Mount Sinai Health System, as my sister's doctor is one of the leading doctors at the Mount Sinai Health System. My mom actually had a meeting with her yesterday and was telling her that we were at this competition. So it's really incredible that we have that connection. And then since we have all of these close connections with these doctors and therapists, we will then be able to rule out other small companies from competing with us if they try to go into the space of students with disabilities. But specifically for parents and educators of students with disabilities, they will right away want to turn to AI Learners because every single one of them are looking for a new educational platform, because all of the current edtech platforms, there's some really incredible platforms, but they are not designed to meet the complex needs of students with disabilities, and that's specifically the target market that we are striving to help.
Can you talk a little bit about how you see this being different and kind of the end result being more effective with students? And is it going to be 2 times more effective or 3 times? And are you working towards like a white paper or something that would give you the ability to then put that on your website or talk to educators?
That's a great question. So I'm an engineer. I love all of these numbers and understanding the research. That's actually the problem right now, is that we don't have the numbers to compare. So we don't have numbers right now to say how are students with disabilities learning now and how can we then further improve it, and that's something that we want to conduct through this research, is seeing what is this base? How do we think that students are learning right now, and then how can we then improve these numbers and multiply them with AI Learners? There are some resources right now. There's different ways of assessing students' disabilities and then what their current mathematical abilities are. So we're thinking of partnering with some of these companies that do these assessments, and I have been talking to people on some of these companies. But there's large issues with some of these as well, because their diagnostics, as Kylie was talking about as well, they're not effective. They are not engaging for students, so students can't perform well in these assessments. And then an assessment of a student's mathematical abilities is not good. And then the result is then that students with disabilities, people think that they cannot learn because their mathematical abilities are too low right now. But the problem is really with the assessment tools. So another feature that we also want to add to our platform is a new assessment tool, because we want to show that right now we can assess what a student's ability mathematically is, and we just need to give them an assessment tool that actually is adaptable to them, and it's not just adaptable to every single student, because fundamentally these students are different, so we have to assess their mathematical abilities differently as well.
So you mentioned you're working on a lot of partnerships, but in your sales and marketing strategy, are you engaging your therapists? Are you incentivizing them? Because I think that would be a great source of clients for you, right?
Right, yes. So that really comes at the bottom 2 steps of the marketing funnel I briefly went through. We really want those therapists to serve as recommenders because we know that they have such strong relationships with both the child that they work with and the parent of that child. So what we want to do is have the parent be the end buyer, and then the educator will provide the recommendation and then be really excited to use our product both in the therapy center as well as the parent using it with the child at home. And then we have this very holistic use for our product. There's no transition between the home and therapy practice. Everyone is aligned to AI Learners. And the way that we're reaching these educators is by entering LinkedIn and Facebook groups that are primarily for educators. Adele has actually been in so many of those groups and had so many great 15-minute, 30-minute calls come out of them. So we really have high confidence that therapists are going to be excited for this.
That's great.
Real quick, if you look down the road, and let's just say you get the algorithm refined and the product's out, what would be a more aggressive marketing plan than what you have in the current base plan that you presented?
That's a great question. Thank you for challenging us on that. A more aggressive marketing plan.
I would say to start, simply we would increase our platform's price. The monthly price, or expanding more quickly to schools, for example. There's other areas as well that we can tap into and other ways that we can sell. For example, there's like insurance companies that we could go through, and some of them partner with edtech platforms. There's also, if you think about other companies that are all part of this one centralized system that schools make partnerships with. So for example, a school can work with a specific set of tools, and on this set, it would include like Google Classroom, for example, or other platforms to use as well, like maybe like a note-taking company as well. So we could be one of those. And some schools make partnerships with them. It's becoming more popular, I would say, over time. That is a really big area that we do want to research and better understand. But kind of as we're thinking with schools, we first want to make strong connections with individuals to gain their support, and then we can then look at other ways that we can sell our model, sell AI learners, because we know that there are many more opportunities for us, but we really do want to get that initial traction, and then once we do have those individuals supporting us, they can also introduce us to these other methods of selling as well, because they're also in the space as well. Like, they are experts, so they can help us. And as Kylie said, we're making these personal connections, and these people want to help us because we're helping them. So then through that, they will help us market our platform more and introduce us to new areas of revenue.
That makes sense, and that's the thought I was formulating. So what's in my head is the more aggressive strategy is going through the funnel faster, such that we can reach the schools faster. More aggressive might be schools by 2026, 27 instead of 28. But like Adele said, we want to make sure that we do this right and reach the schools when it's due time.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So education can be a little bit of a hot button topic these days. I'll talk about cultural competencies, language barriers. What kind of flexibility do you have built into the system to allow you to adjust to the various school districts that you may be operating in?
That's a great question. So I guess on the language barrier side, we've already received interest from international communities to translate our platform. There's a group of people from France, actually, that I connected with through Facebook, and they said, can we translate your platform now? I said, can we please wait a year so we can develop this a little further, but we would love to do that. But on the development side, there's things that we consider in order to really scale in the future like that. So we are going to be set up to be able to translate. Something that we really work on is making sure that our website is accessible to all of these students, and that is something that can translate to different school districts, as schools will use AI learners on different tools, such as a computer or an iPad. But then expanding even more broadly, we want to reach all different school districts, so we will reach out to people from all over the map. And then for the pricing side of it, so we understand that first we want to sell to individuals, but we know that some people will not be able to afford the $10 per month or $120 per year. So then what we want to do is then sell to schools, and then they will be able to purchase the platform for all of their students. So students that are not able to afford AI learners will then be able to use it through their school. And then that's also why in the future maybe we could work with insurance, because the government does provide a lot of support for people with disabilities. Personally, like, my family has received an immense amount of support from the US government in order to supply a lot of things for my sister. All of her therapy is free. Her assistive device, her Toby, we received for free. It's a $16,000 device, and we did not pay a single penny for that. So we definitely do want to help a lot of people that are not able to afford AI learners, because I really do understand how important it is to provide people with technology and education, no matter what your income is.
Thanks.
AI learners from Cornell University, thank you very much.